26 disturbing dashcam videos, 7 levels, 1 creepy iceberg. This is the disturbing dashcam iceberg, a chilling mix of some of the creepiest footage ever captured on camera. From jaw-dropping accidents to haunting final moments, the deeper we go, the more unsettling they become. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. Woman fakes getting hit by a car. It was August 28, 2024, and a bizarre dashcam video was going viral on X, formerly known as Twitter. It was posted by X user Shoni Kapoor with a warning to buy dashcams. The video starts with a car driving toward a woman who is standing right in the middle of his lane. As the car made a turn to avoid her, the woman did something even more shocking. Within seconds, she was back on her feet, but that's when things got even stranger.
Police! 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 Police!
She was slamming her hands on the hood of the car and making menacing gestures at the driver while repeatedly shaking her head. Then just as quickly as she had appeared, she stumbled away. The video went viral, racking up over 1 million viewers, and opinions on the footage were diverse. Some said her bizarre behavior was because she was having a mental episode. Others said she appeared to be high on drugs. A few even believed she was possessed. But the most popular take was something a little more down to earth: scams. There have been several incidents of people staging accidents by running into cars or just lying in front of them, acting like they'd been hit so they could get the drivers to hand over money. Could this have been one of those? Well, the jury's still out on this one. Level 2. Swarm of locusts. In a scene that has to be straight out of Jumanji, ABC News shared a 17-second clip of nail-biting horror. Mark Sewer was driving down a dirt road in Queensland, Australia, when his windshield was pelted by a couple of locusts. Within seconds, what had started as just a few would grow to what looked like hundreds and hundreds of them just slamming into the windshield. The blue sky became tinged with what looks like brown dust, but it's not dust, it's the unimaginably huge swarm of locusts. The video was taken in April 2025 and quickly went viral, generating tons of horrified comments. This wasn't the only footage captured of the locust swarm across Queensland, and each one was as creepy as the last. Clinton Hughes was at his family home when the swarm descended on their property, in their numbers and what many described as straight out of a horror movie. The most shocking part? According to news reports, it could have gotten a whole lot worse if the weather had stayed good. Car goes airborne, narrowly misses traffic. On March 14, 2025, Larry Fink had a close encounter with death, and it was all caught on his dashcam. He was driving along Route 1 when a car on the opposite side of the road slammed into the concrete barrier in the median and launched into the air headed right for him. What Larry did next would determine whether he lived or died. Larry missed the car by 3 feet, narrowly avoiding a head-on crash. This all happened in under 3 seconds. It happened so fast that no one else saw it happen. All they saw was the aftermath, a totaled car facing the wrong side of the road.
And it was totally turned the opposite way. I mean, it was so crazy. I'm like, how did that car get in that position?
When the police arrived, the driver tried to take off on foot, leading many to suspect that he had stolen the car. But they later released a statement saying that wasn't the case. There have been no further updates on what caused the car to go out of control. Woman texting and driving gets into accident. When a car owner in Arlington, Washington learned that a car they rented out through Turo had been completely totaled, they were curious to know why. The renter said a driver had run her off the road, and she would have gotten away with this explanation if not for one pesky dash cam. The dashcam showed the woman driving down the road at speeds of over 60 kilometers per hour. It's bad enough that she was barely paying attention to the road and was entirely focused on her phone, but somehow it got even worse. The woman now had both hands off the wheel, all the better to text with, and was zooming down the road like she was in a self-driving car. Spoiler alert, she wasn't. With her eyes, hands, and mind off the road, she didn't notice when the car began to drift from the road till it was too late. Aside from screaming her head off and dropping her phone, the woman walked away unharmed, but she might not get away scot-free. There's every chance she could be facing criminal charges for filing a false report and reckless driving. If you made it this far, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss out on my next Disturbing Moments Iceberg. Level 3. Bear getting hit. When you think of animals darting into traffic, you think of deer. It's their whole shtick. They even have a whole idiom based on their antics on the road. But in a popular video uploaded to the subreddit r/dashcams by an unknown user, one unsuspecting man was behind the wheel and chatting on the phone when he ran into something that definitely wasn't a deer.
I'm gonna smoke a huge fucking... Oh my god!
The force of the collision sent the bear skidding more than 20 feet across the road and into a small gully at the other side of the road. Unexpectedly, the bear ambles on out and continues on its way into the forest. Going away to die, or a testament to the astonishing strength of these creatures? Your guess is as good as mine. Quick-thinking driver saves passenger from robbery attempt. On the night of May 6, 2025, dashcam footage from Bangladesh, India captured the moment a driver spotted something lying across the road. At first, it looked like a man with his hands on his head who might have needed help. But as he got closer, it soon became clear what his real intentions were. He had deliberately set up the roadblock to trap unsuspecting drivers in an ambush. Like this wasn't already terrifying enough, the scene took a nightmarish feel as more of them started appearing out of the darkness. The quick-thinking driver immediately hit it to high gear and reversed out of there. It seemed like they were out of it, but wait, there's more. There's no telling what would have happened if they hadn't been able to get away, but against men armed with cutlasses, it couldn't have been anything good. Ice shatters windshield. Nurse and mom of two, Laura Smith, was headed home when she stepped into a scene like something from a Final Destination movie. She was driving down the fast lane on the M6 with a truck to her left when the unexpected happened. A sheet of solid ice had been torn right off the roof of the speeding truck and slammed into Laura's windscreen, shattering it and knocking down her dash cam. Fortunately, Laura was unharmed and managed to stay in control of the car until she could pull over. At first, she thought someone had thrown something at her car. It was an officer who had been driving right behind her at the time who saw it all happen and finally told her what had actually occurred. Deer smashes into windshield. A public bus in Warwick, Rhode Island was making its route with 6 passengers on board on June 10, 2024. Suddenly, as the bus made its way down the street, a deer came charging out of a side street. What happened next was not pretty. The deer had a full-on collision with the front windshield of the bus. The impact was so intense that it broke right through. One passenger took the brunt of the clash, getting slammed by both flying glass and the deer. He and another passenger ended up at the hospital with minor injuries. The deer wasn't so lucky. Level 4. Man caught on Dashcam 3 days before taking his daughter's lives. On May 27th, 2025, a Wenatchee police officer was meeting with 2 men at a Safeway parking lot over a car crash. The gentleman in question was Travis Decker, and he had done everything he could to get the man to not call the police, from begging to trying to intimidate him. When the officer had finished documenting the accident and handed Travis back his documents, he had only one question.
If we respond to an accident, there's...
I'm not going to jail tonight?
Oh, no, you won't go to jail for it. That's an infraction. That's not a criminal offense.
But that one question would snowball into an increasingly bizarre conversation.
So it depends on the degree of suspended as well.
What you got to take it away for?
Yeah, basically.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a better day.
They're all great days.
What's that?
I said they're all great days.
Yeah, all right.
Hey,
man.
be safe out
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
You'd think Travis was done, right? Not quite. The officer was having a chat with the other guy, and guess who strolled up?
You report that to your insurance, just tell them what happened, and it is what it is. Like, your insurance should still cover it. Your insurance should still cover that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I don't want my son's premium to go up. So the damage has to be covered by him, correct?
Travis's lurking presence still wasn't as strange as what happened next.
All right, so we'll have to be in touch then. Yeah, let me know what's going on. You be all right? What? You be all right? I'll be all right. You be all right? I'm going to be all right. I'll be good.
This handshake would go on for a while. Even when the man attempted to leave, Travis wouldn't let go. The next time the man would see Travis's face was on the local news.
Travis Decker, the man wanted in the deaths of his 3 young daughters. Authorities say they found bones, among other items, but officials caution they're not sure if the bones are human or animal.
Turns out that just 3 days after the crash, Travis had picked up his 3 daughters for a planned visitation on May 30th, but had not returned them to their mother. He simply never showed up. A search was initiated to locate the 3 girls, but it would end in a tragedy. Their bodies were found at the Washington State campground near Travis's truck. All signs pointed to him being the one who ended their lives, but he was long gone. A nationwide manhunt was launched to find him, but Travis, an Army veteran with extensive survival training, managed to stay out of reach. 3 months in, he is still at large. Motorcyclist loses leg during crash. On April 28, 2025, 52-year-old Catherine Goff was sentenced to 20 months in prison. This ruling was all down to a terrifying incident that happened on March 9, 2023. Catherine, an avid motorcyclist, was riding down the A3052 in Devon on her bike. Between her loud music, the pouring rain, and the low visibility, it wasn't exactly the kind of weather for reckless driving, but Catherine didn't let that stop her. Meanwhile, her helmet cam captured her making several swipes at her visor to clear the lens, a clear sign of how bad the weather was and how much she was struggling to see clearly. But Catherine wasn't going to let anything stop her, not the rain, and certainly not her lack of visibility. Ahead of her, an RAC recovery van was towing her partner's vehicle. For some reason, she decided to rev up and cut ahead of them. Catherine was completely unaware of a light coming her way in the distance, and this dangerous maneuver put her in the direct path of another road user. Another motorcyclist was headed down the road, and Catherine slammed into them at full speed. The results were catastrophic. The bikes were damaged, and so was the towing van. But worst of all, the other rider had to get a leg amputated. A life-changing injury, all down to a decision someone else took. Catherine pleaded guilty to causing serious injury by dangerous driving and ended up with a 20-month jail term. She also cannot hold a license for 4 years. Officer shootout. In the early hours of June 25, 2025, officers across Illinois were on the trail of a white pickup truck that had been stolen by 59-year-old Mark Feltmeyer. He had already gotten away from 2 police chases, and he was still just as determined to get away this time. The officers quickly found out just how far he was willing to go.
Make contact.
With Mark wedged in from both ends, the officers rushed out of their car to get him in cuffs, but this perp still had one card up his sleeve. By this time, the officers already had their weapons drawn. As Mark backed up, they rushed toward the truck. Then suddenly he switched gears and charged right at the officers. That's when the night lit up like it was New Year's Eve. Mark had rammed through several squad cars, injuring a number of the officers before taking off, but he wouldn't get far this time. Mark got shot and lost control of the truck, crashing right into a home. Even then, he still refused to surrender and even tried to get the truck going again. That's when he got shot for the second time. An investigation was opened into the officer's use of force and shooting at Mark, but it was ruled as justified. As for the man of the hour, he survived and is now facing a whole slew of charges, including possession of a stolen vehicle, aggravated fleeing, and aggravated assault of a peace officer. Massive car pile after crash. It was around 4:30 a.m. on November 4th, 2022, and a crew from the Denver Department of Transportation and Infrastructure had just decided not to put de-icer on 6th Avenue. They didn't think it needed any, but this was a decision they would regret just 2 hours later. Footage from a car's dashcam shared on Reddit captured what looked like a traffic jam. But this was not a traffic jam. It was so much worse. The icy roads of this Denver highway had turned into a nightmare. Drivers spun out of control and crashed into each other. It's estimated that 100 cars ended up in the pileup. They were so banged up that the drivers couldn't get out, and fire officials had to cut them out of their cars. It took 5 hours for the highway to be cleared of both cars and debris. Meanwhile, 13 people ended up in the hospital for injuries sustained during the crashes. Things would have been a lot worse if it wasn't for a few people who warned other drivers of what was ahead. Cyclist gets crushed between two cars. A car's dash camera in Turkey captured the moment a white car clipped a blue car as it made a turn, sending it spinning. This couldn't have happened at a worse moment. Right then, a child was riding his bicycle on the opposite side of the road, headed their way. What happened next left bystanders in shock. In an instant, the blue car skidded right into the boy, slamming him into a parked car and crushing him between the two as passerbys rushed to help the poor boy. Shockingly, according to news reports, other than a few light bruises, the boy didn't get seriously hurt. Level 5. Explosions in street in Chernihiv, North Ukraine. On March 3rd, 2023, a man's drive through a neighborhood in Chernihiv, Ukraine was intercepted in one of the most traumatic ways imaginable. It was 9 days into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and they had just dropped 6 missiles on an apartment complex in a residential area. People can be seen scurrying away from the debris and smoke, running for their lives. They were the lucky ones. The airstrike took the lives of 43 people and injured more than a dozen. This dashcam clip is just one of many that have captured the devastation of Russian strikes on Ukrainian cities, many of them aimed at residential areas. Despite this, Russia continues to claim that they were all military locations. Semi-truck smashes into worker. On June 27, 2025, the frightening footage of the moment a semi-truck slammed into a utility worker in Louisiana was going viral online. The video showed a man in the outstretched arm of a bucket truck doing maintenance work on a stoplight. There were no warning signs and no lanes blocked off, just some cones placed too far away, and a single man keeping an eye out and controlling traffic. Too bad he didn't see the huge 18-wheeler semi-truck heading their way till it was far too late. In an instant, the trailer slammed into the bucket truck arm, smashing it to smithereens and tipping the worker over the side. His one saving grace was a harness that kept him tethered to the bucket as his coworkers tried to help. but the mechanism to lower him had been destroyed, and all they could do was watch him as he dangled precariously over the road. He was eventually rescued and suffered some minor injuries. Taiwan earthquake causes landslides. Footage from a car's dashcam in Taiwan captured the charming scenery of the mountain during a drive. Then suddenly, the dashcam picks up on a series of beeps. These aren't just any old beeps. In a country like Taiwan that's very prone to earthquakes, these beeps are all the warning you get that an earthquake is just seconds away. And this time was no different. Rocks were already tumbling down the mountain just as the driver saw a rockfall shelter ahead. But nothing will prepare you for what would have happened if they had not made it to the shelter.
Oh, 差点 GG!
Taiwan had just been hit by one of the most powerful earthquakes in 25 years. The aftermath was devastating. On the mountain, several landslides of massive rocks were raining down. If it's this terrifying in a car, you can only wonder what became of the lone biker on the dashcam picked up before the earthquake hit. And yet, one disturbing clip from another dashcam showed that just because you were in a car didn't mean you were safe. TransAsia Airways Flight 235 crash. 58 people were on board TransAsia Airways Flight 235 when it took off from Taiwan's Taipei Chongqing Airport headed for Kinmen Island. But within minutes of takeoff, the pilots would radio air control that they had suffered an engine failure. Moments later, air control heard these haunting words. In a scene straight out of a nightmare, the plane began to descend, narrowly avoiding buildings on its way down. The dashcam on a nearby vehicle captured the moment it struck a bridge and nearby taxi before plunging into the river below. First responders and rescue teams raced to save any survivors. In the end, of the 58 people who had boarded minutes earlier, only 15 survived. Among the dead was the pilot, 42-year-old Liao Qiangsung, whose body was found in the cockpit, still holding onto the joystick. In death, Liao was praised as a hero for maneuvering the already doomed plane away from crowded buildings and into the river, preventing an even bigger loss of life. An investigation was opened into what had actually caused the crash. That was how they found out Liao had turned off one engine before taking off, leaving him with just one working engine. This alone didn't cause the crash, and according to the investigators, an aircraft can fly on a single engine for a short domestic flight as long as the pilot knew how. Unfortunately, Liao was not up to the task. A year before, he had failed simulator checks, and just a few months before the crash, an instructor had said that he needed more training in handling engine failure. But that training would never come. That fateful day when Liao noticed he had not turned on the first engine, he tried to switch it on, but ended up switching off the only other engine. The black box captured the moment he realized what he had done, but it was already far too late. Toddler falling out of a car. On February 27, 2016, dashcam footage from a car driving down a busy highway in China captured the shocking moment a kid almost became roadkill. Totally unaware of what had just fallen out of his van and right into the path of the car behind, the driver zoomed off with his boot wide open. What the child did next was gut-wrenching. The poor kid couldn't catch up, and the people in the car swooped in and picked the very upset child from the busy freeway. They were talking about taking the child to a police station when an elderly man rushed towards them. The man turned out to be the boy's grandfather, who had been driving the van. He had no idea his grandson had fallen out of the van until a couple caught up with him and told him. In an interview some days later, he explained that the door latch at the back had been damaged after he had gotten rear-ended. Fortunately, the boy was not hurt. Richard McNair. On April 5th, 2006, Ball police officer Carl Bordelon spotted a suspicious man running on the train tracks and called him over to ask some questions.
Do you have any form of identification on you?
No, man.
What's your name?
Robert Jones.
Robert Jones?
Why I'm not supposed to be on the tracks?
The man, who introduced himself as Robert Jones, quickly explained why he was out there. But the officer wasn't just harassing random pedestrians. He had a very good reason for questioning the guy.
What it is, we got an escapee.
Oh, Where from?
Prison.
There's a prison here?
Yeah.
It wasn't just any old inmate that had gone missing, it was convicted Richard McNair. And from Robert's response, it's hard to imagine he had anything to do with the fugitive. But the officer decided to be a bit more thorough and radioed in for a description of the suspect, just in case.
Can you find out? I'm out with a white male on the tracks at Gilly Williams.
You can call my little brother.
This went for a couple of minutes, and all the while, Robert was so relaxed, patient, and cheerful that you almost forgot the officer stopped him because he was a suspect. After a lengthy back and forth over the description, Officer Carl was pretty sure Robert wasn't their man, and the two even laughed over how closely he matched the convict's description. Little did Officer Carl realize that the man he was sharing a laugh with wasn't Robert Jones at all, but rather the very person he was supposed to be on the lookout for, Richard McNair. As you can guess, this wasn't Richard's first time escaping prison. Back in 1987, after a botched robbery that left one man dead and another seriously injured, Richard was brought in for questioning but didn't stay long. Using a lip balm he had in his pocket, he wrangled his way out of the cuffs and ran off. His next escape attempt was foiled when officers moved him to a new cell. In his old cell, they spotted an opening that had already been made in the wall. Then there was the time he and two other prisoners crawled out from the prison through a ventilation duct. This time, when he was found, he was placed in a maximum security prison. Over the next decade, Richard worked in the prison system until he ended up in a federal prison. There, he was assigned to repair old mail bags, but prison authorities had no idea they were giving him the tools of his escape. On the morning of April 5th, 2006, a pallet of shrink-wrapped mail bags was moved to a warehouse outside the prison wall. Unbeknownst to anyone, Richard was inside, hiding in a pod he'd designed, complete with a breathing tube. Once the coast was clear, he cut himself out and ran to freedom, only to meet up with Officer Carl hours later. Now, all he needed to do was convince the officer he was Robert the roofer out on a job, and he was a free man. At one point, Carl noticed Robert had scratch marks all over his body.
Did you go through a briar patch or something?
Well, yeah, roofing. I always roof in shorts and cut my scratching up on, the roofing.
That's why your knees are all cut up?
Yeah.
But then, 5 minutes into the questions, Robert made a big mistake.
What's your name again?
Jimmy Jones.
He said his name was Jimmy instead of Robert, but Officer Carl did not even notice the slip-up. He even gave Richard some friendly advice on dealing with any other officers he might run into. After that, Officer Carl let him go. Richard was on the run for more than a year, drifting between the US and Canada before he was captured. Since then, Richard has been kept under lock and key and has not escaped again. At least, not yet. Level 6. Fuel tanker bursts into flames in the middle of the road. A vehicle was barreling down Highway 401 in Pickering, Ontario in June of 2023. Then, right in front, a truck lugging 2 fuel tanks began drifting to the right without so much as a turn signal. Suddenly, the tanker went from drifting to the right to drifting to the left. That was the moment the cars closest to it slowed down. It was a decision that saved their lives. In an instant, the tanker veered across 3 lanes and slammed into the median. What happened next would end 2 lives. The explosion happened just as another truck and a car were passing on the opposite side, and both were engulfed in flames. The 2 passengers in the car were able to get out before the fire burned the car to a crisp, but not everyone was so lucky. The driver of the tanker and transport truck did not survive. Truck plows car. Dashcam video footage from the Mumbai-Pune Expressway in India captured a truck going down the road at high speed. Then, it made an unexpected lane change. It might have looked like terrible driving on the driver's part, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The truck's brake had suddenly failed, and the driver was trying to maneuver the truck around the road and avoid as many cars as he could. Despite his best efforts, the truck ended up crashing into multiple vehicles in the outer lane and causing a pileup of epic proportions. In the aftermath, 19 people were seriously injured, and 1 woman lost her life. Christine Spicuzza. Christine Spicuzza was a 38-year-old mother of 4 in Monroeville, Pittsburgh. With that many mouths to feed, she was driving for Uber for some extra cash. That was what she was doing on the night of February 10th, 2022, but she would never return home. 2 days later, her body was found in the woods. The mother of 4 had been executed. The police immediately tracked down the last person she had driven, Tanya Mullen. But she said it was her boyfriend, 25-year-old Calvin Crew, who had used her phone to book the app. During questioning, he told the police that he'd left Christina alive and well after his trip ended and boarded a bus home. Investigators didn't find any CCTV footage of him getting on a bus, but they did find Christine's dashboard camera right where the trip had ended. What they saw when they played the footage blew a hole in Calvin's story. It starts off showing the moment Calvin got into Christine's Uber. Completely unaware of what lay ahead, she kept trying to engage him. Meanwhile, Calvin kept fidgeting in the back seat, repeatedly looking out of the window. Then, the trip came to an end, but instead of leaving the car, Calvin made his move.
Driving.
I'm sorry?
Keep driving.
You've got to be joking.
Keep driving.
Calvin had pulled out a weapon and was now holding Christine by her hair. At first, she didn't believe what was happening. When the realization dawned, she begged for her life, telling Calvin she had a family.
No, it's not. Stop. Come on, man. I got a family. What are you doing?
I got a family too, now drive.
What are you doing?
Drive.
His response was chilling. Then, Calvin, still holding the gun to her head, forced Christine to start the engine and keep driving. As the car picked up speed, Calvin casually leaned forward, took her phone. His last words before shutting off the camera turned out to be a lie. The next time anyone would see the 38-year-old mother of 4, she would be dead. According to GPS records, for the next hour, Calvin had forced Christina to drive through several neighborhoods while he went through her banking apps. When he was done, he executed her. Phone records also showed he received a text from his girlfriend Tanya that would prove that she had some knowledge of what he was up to. The weapon he'd used was also registered in her name. In 2025, Calvin was sentenced to life in prison. Level 7. Firefighters get caught in massive wildfire. The devastating Pinery Fire of November 2015 is one that many Australians will never forget. It ravaged more than 80,000 hectares of land and would destroy 91 homes. One of the scariest pieces of footage to come from this disaster was from the dash cam of a fire truck that was headed right into the blaze. The further they went in, the thicker the black cloud of smoke and ash became. Eventually, the visibility got so bad that both fire trucks pulled to a stop. This might have looked as bad as it could get, but it's about to get a whole lot worse. In an instant, a huge wall of flames had appeared, spreading rapidly toward the truck. In a bid to escape the worst of it, the first truck had slammed into the one behind.
Jesus Christ!
Now they were both trapped in the middle of a fire that was showing no signs of dying down. As flames engulfed the truck, the trapped firefighters could only hope that the little water they had in the sprinkler system would hold against the intense flames as they called for help. Fortunately for them, the fire passed and they made it out alive. Self-driving Uber kills woman. It was the night of March 18th, 2018, and a self-driving Uber was going down a highway in Tempe, Arizona, but it wasn't empty. The software was still in testing, so a licensed driver was behind the wheel to both monitor the car's performance and step in if the car's software failed at any point. That driver was 44-year-old Rafaela Vasquez, but she had other things on her mind that night. Instead of paying attention to the road, Rafaela kept looking down at her smartphone as she streamed the television show The Voice. Meanwhile, 49-year-old Elaine Hertzberg was walking her bike across the road. By the time the Uber Dashcam picked up on her, it was far too late for Rafaela to do anything. When the police showed up and asked her what had happened, she deliberately excluded the fact that she didn't have her eyes on the road.
So what exactly happened?
The car was in auto drive, and all of a sudden, the car didn't see it, I didn't see it, and then all of a sudden, it's just there, but he shot out in front, and then I think I hit him.
The accident proved to be fatal for Elaine, who later died from her injuries. In the aftermath, Uber reached an undisclosed settlement with her family, but they were not held criminally liable. Rafaela was. In 2023, she took a plea deal and was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation, and she also had to pay restitution. If you're still looking for more disturbing icebergs like this one, why not check out our video on the most disturbing footage iceberg next?